asleep. So we're kind of all over the place and surviving off of coffee. So, are you ready? All right. Well, I'm Macy, Cate. This is Jay Brown, and we work with InCare. He's kind of working on some other stuff over here. So we've worked with Basecamp a little bit and been here a couple of times now. But we walked through the northwest side on the way here, and Corey was telling me a little bit about it. It sounds really interesting and cool. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about these systems. Y'all received them through the REST grant, which is a Rural Utility Services grant that does distance learning technology. And so distance learning technology, how it was when this grant was written and how you think of distance learning technology now is like two totally separate things, because we had a worldwide pandemic and it's like, whoa. So nowadays when we think about distance learning technology, a lot of times we're thinking of a student sitting at home getting instruction from a teacher somewhere else. But how these systems were designed and how the USDA used to think of distance learning was more of like a dual enrollment setting or professional development, virtual field trips. So one site that has a bunch of students going live to another site with a bunch of students.
Excellent.
And so that's how this equipment was designed, but also there's a way to accomplish the goal that we see it now, which is having this technology broadcasted to a student that's maybe at home, somebody that's homebound, somebody that has been exposed to COVID, somebody that just can't be there. Lots of different case scenarios that we can present, but this equipment should be able to help you accomplish that goal. And yesterday I was in Tennessee telling them, we say all the time, for purposes of the grant, this equipment was made for distance learning technology. I know Corey and some of her people have been doing a lot of other stuff with this technology as well, and so it's kind of like a 2-for-1. You have the capability to do distance learning and to broadcast to students who are not physically present with you, but you also have the ability to say, hey, I'm going to take this panel and I'm going to put some content on there for my students who are in here and not do a video call. I'm going to do the same thing with this one, and now I have 2 different rooms and 2 different spaces that can have this panel to be able to broadcast information. So that's a little bit about like what this is. This is called the Poly Group 500. And the Poly equipment is actually the camera and the codec and the speakers. The panels are made by ViewSonic. So it's 2 different manufacturers. Jay and I work for InCare, so we're the vendor. We don't work for either one of the manufacturers. So we'll be more than happy to help you answer questions on them, but we sell lots of different products, so if we can't find the answers, then we work directly with the reps for these manufacturers who can. So I'm going to kind of go through here. Again, super ADHD, newborn, unmedicated. I talk really fast. If you need me, I'm very informal. Just stop me and be like, whoa, you're going too fast. Slow down here for a second. So the first thing I used to tell people, this is like the holy grail of the system. This is what works. This is what manages the video portion, and it says Polycom on it, so you know that the Poly is the video portion. So if you wanted to do a call, if you wanted to have live video, you're going to use this Poly remote. And any of the buttons will actually activate the system and turn it on. So we've turned it on here. My computer is going to keep going to sleep. But you have 2 panels because ideally you would like to see participants on one, content on the other, or content on both to be able to see what your students are seeing, be able to annotate, show them different information. But your remote is really self-explanatory. Got it in your handout. The first is volume. So you turn the volume up and down on your system. The speakers that are here is where that sound is actually coming from. So if you're going to play a video or something like that. The next is camera control, where you can zoom in and out. Next, you have like a little trackpad where you can go up and down and side to side. Back, home, and this little thing that looks like a piece of paper, that's the menu. So you can kind of think of it when you go to a website, a lot of times they have those little 3 lines at the top that bring out more. You can get to things there. And I know it's a little bit intimidating, so I tell people all the time, all roads lead to home. So if you get to a screen that you don't know where it's at, you don't know what's going on, click the home button and it'll bring you back to this screen that you see right here. You're seeing the view that the end user would be seeing right down here. So we're not in a call right now, but if we were going to start a call, you know that this is what that end user is going to be seeing. Questions on the remote? You have your keypad here that has your numbers. And then right here down at the bottom is mute and unmute. And you will see that right down here there's a microphone with a line through it in red. And if I tap that, it goes away. So you can mute and unmute there. And then I tell people a lot, there's a lot of different ways that you can accomplish one goal. There's lots of buttons for specific things on the remote. You see these 3 lines down here at the bottom. If you touch the 3 lines on the remote, it's going to pull up that menu. So you see here we also have mute and unmute there. So if I didn't want to just use the one button, then I could actually use this little trackpad to toggle over, to mute and unmute there. You see it highlights it in blue. And you'll notice, and I'm sorry that I'm turning my back to y'all, the remote is going with this. So a lot of times people think it's like a TV and they're going down here. Go up to the remote. Question?
Can you just touch the screen where the hamburger button is?
You cannot.
Okay.
This one is not interactive, and that's a great question. This one's just a display, a commercial display. This one is interactive. So your content's going to go in here, so you will be able to annotate here.
Excellent.
And your participants will be there. That's a great question. In the bottom of your remote, if for some reason you feel like your remote is not working after you've tried to go up here and not to the bottom like you would your television, in your bottom, if you pull out, this is a thumb drive, and this is what will charge it. So we've had this system in our office for several years. I don't know that we've ever charged it. Sometimes we plug it in just for the fun of it. But it's just a USB. You'll notice on the front of these screens there's 3 USBs going across. So you can actually plug it in, a little light will flash, and that will charge it. You shouldn't have to do that. It stays charged for a pretty good while, and it just pops right back in. I tell people, and you guys, I was saying earlier, this whole situation is a little bit different than what we normally do. A lot of times we're in K-12 or a setting where it's going to be in the room stationary, but the remote is like $150, so you don't want to lose the remote. So like putting a little command strip on it, putting a piece of duct tape on it, or washi tape, something cute, put it in a special place if you're going to be moving these. But there's a basket on the back. So there's a little basket, so if you are going to move it from space to space, make sure you collect the things, put them in the basket on the back if you need to, and you'll be good to go. Sorry, that's just my computer going to sleep over here. Questions on the remote and its functions? That was quick. All right, so just a little bit more about the equipment, and then we'll get into the meat of things. So you guys have this dual panel system, but it can work as a single panel. So if you didn't have a need to annotate over content or anything like that, you could unplug this system and all of this would still work. Because the brains and everything for this piece of equipment are on here. So the first thing you have obviously is the camera. You have some speakers that are down here. I think this is important because if you ever have a question, you go to Corey or you call us. A lot of times people are like, yeah, the things that are square, we don't know what they're doing. And we're like, no, there's a lot of square things. So you can look back at this picture and you'll be able to tell us exactly what it is that's not working. So you have your camera, and actually on the back of this, there's a little panel, but there's a silver box. That's called the codec. That's the brains. That's what lets it connect from one IP address to the other. You have your remote, you have your interactive panel, and then you also have a microphone. And I'm going to try to get to it, but it's back here, and it looks like that on the picture. It's like a little triangular thing. It looks really techy. A lot of times people think it's wireless, and so they'll call us and they're like, "Oh, mic's not working," and we're like, "Well, it's not wireless. It does have to be plugged in." So it's got a little orange cord that plugs into it. Oh, it's right here. Thanks, Jake. Sorry. Here's the remote. The mic. So it's muted right now. You can tap it, and it's unmuted. And you see that little red microphone goes away at the bottom. If we're in a call, this is going to be green if it's unmuted. So green means go, you know that you're in a call, they're hearing you. If you wanted to mute it, you could tap it, or you could tap it on the remote, or you could click the 3 lines and toggle over to it. So lots of ways to do that. This is like a 16-foot cord, so it has pretty good absorption if you're near it, or really even from the back, it should probably be able to hear Dr. Jones, but if we were gonna be in a room like this and you were doing a presentation and you really wanted everyone to be able to be heard, you could unwind this, set it in the middle of the table, and you could rest assured that everybody would be able to be heard. That's the equipment. You guys have the dual panel system. So on this, you could have the single panel system where everything's going with one panel, but you have the dual panel system, which is the best of the best to be able to make sure. So the only difference in the two is that you have a second screen. Alright, so now for the fun part, and that is making a call. So used to, you would call from one IP address to the other IP address, and that's the only way you can make this happen. But you don't necessarily have an IP address based system at your house, and so if a student was at home, you wouldn't really be able to connect with them. So there's two ways that you can make a call. You can call from one IP address to another IP address, or you can call the IP address of Zoom, which is in here, and I'm going to show you how to do that, and then enter a meeting ID. And what that allows to happen is anybody to join your Zoom call in the world that we know it today of joining a Zoom call and sharing content and things like that. Go ahead.
Do we have a Polycom system in Oxford?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And probably
Is
in a
this the
conference-
same one that they have mounted in the ceiling, I think?
I don't know the answer to that, but it'll look like a
Yeah,
television with a
I
camera
really
like
believe we do.
that.
Yeah,
What this will allow us to do is if we wanted to have a conference call or meeting or whatever, we can do it from the Polycom system in either the conference room on the northwest side conference room, which I'll show you in a little bit, or there's another system in the medical room down the way. So we have two of these two-screen get-ups, setups. We can also, we want to be able to talk to Senatobia if we needed to, and or a three-way with Water Valley, Oxford, and Senatobia. We could pull that off as well. But I'll have to find out exactly what the connection is in Senatobia, what the connection is in Oxford, and this connection here, so we could, if we needed to, have a three-way call conference set
And the
up.
best way to do that would be through the Zoom platform, which I'm going to show you.
that's what I was gonna say, the Zoom would probably.
That just makes anybody be able to join.
Right.
You know, so when you start working with IP addresses and everything, to me, because I talk kindergarten, it's a little bit complicated. But if you can just tell somebody, hey, enter this meeting ID, it's a lot easier to do. So I'll show you how to do both.
Macy?
Yes.
And this is a question actually for both of you. So is this connected via hardwire Cat 6 cable, or is this Wi-Fi?
Cat 6.
Awesome.
Yes, Jay?
Yes,
Right.
but you can do Wi-Fi.
And
Yeah,
on
it
our
just-
side, we don't have any Cat 6 stuff over there, so
That's why I'm asking.
We're setting it up right now. So
Okay.
it'll be
Okay,
wireless.
good.
so we were wireless, but we may be going that Cat 6 way too.
You guys will be fine.
So this is an
Wi-Fi.
adapter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the reason I was at. We used Polycom, obviously a much earlier version of this about 8 years ago at another institution, and it was difficult with Wi-Fi. In fact, it was impossible with
With
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we ended up having to run wire, so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's come a long way since then, too, so.
Yeah, and even this is from like 2019 grant, so there's even newer equipment now. And I was telling Corey yesterday, it's like I'm having to retrain my brain because so many still have this, but then there's like 2020 grant applicants that just received even newer equipment that doesn't even have a remote. That, you know, it's wild how y'all know how quickly technology can change from year to year. So to place a call, super easy, and again, lots of different ways you can get there. You can just tap the center button, and it's going to bring up this to be able to place a call. Or I'm going to go back. You can also just click the green button, like you want to call on a cell phone. And if you click the green button, it's also going to bring up that same screen. So we have already called Zoom before, so it's going to be in the frequently used. The Zoom IP address is the same every time. To me, this is kind of like you're at the doctor's office. You have to go in a waiting room before you're actually called back to the doctor. So this is kind of what you're doing here. You're calling Zoom, and then it's going to ask you to enter the meeting ID. So it's called the connector license, the Zoom connector license. So it's connecting your IP-based system to a traditional Zoom license, basically. So I can actually just toggle over to call Zoom. And then, if I needed to just call an IP address for another system, I would just come right here and I would enter the IP address here. And so what you would do is if at Senatobia they had an IP address that you knew, then you would say, hey, the IP address here is, the external IP is this, enter that, and it would connect this codec, which is the brains, to the codec of the other one. I think the easiest way to do it is just do Zoom, and you don't have to worry about telling somebody who has never heard of an IP address to figure out what that IP address is. And that's me. I mean, and that happens, and you expect people to know something, but you know, it adds just to the frustration of trying to get this content going. So we'll just call the Zoom app. So I just select it, and then we'll call. Does this cute little jingle. I have it turned down a little bit, but I'll turn it up a little bit.
Welcome to Zoom. Please press pound, then enter your meeting ID, followed by the pound sign again.
So it gives us the directions, but sometimes people like me are antsy and they are like not listening when that's going on. So what it said was, please press pound and then enter the meeting ID. So a lot of times we have people who would just start entering the meeting ID, but they didn't click pound. So the buttons are not going to work unless you click pound first. So I'm going to click pound, and it tells you that the touch tones are enabled.
3,
And I'm going to enter
1,
my meeting ID,
4.
and I'm going to click pound again. It tells us right here, join. If you incorrectly enter it, you're going to click the asterisk to go back. And so the directions are there, but you know, sometimes we're not the most observant.
Please enter the meeting passcode.
All right, so
followed by
now,
the pound
this is
sign.
important to note. If you have a meeting passcode, it has to be only numbers. It cannot have any letters because there's no numbers on here. So, only. I read, click pound. So I'm the only person in the meeting.
You are in the meeting
I'm
now.
gonna join from my phone. And this is, so if somebody sent you a meeting ID from Senatobia, you would just enter their meeting ID. Right, so you see me now. And then you also see you guys down here at the bottom. So you're seeing both participants. I'll put this down so it's going to see the ceiling. So now you're seeing the participants that are in the call. But back to what I was saying, if somebody at Senatobia said, hey, we need to hop on a meeting, you would just say, okay, let me know what the meeting ID is. Or send me the meeting ID. Or you guys can set up the meeting and share your meeting ID with them. So you're not actually creating a Zoom invite from here, you're just joining the Zoom from here. Does that make sense? So that's just a little bit about how to join the call. The same exact thing would happen if you were just doing IP address to IP address. You would only enter the IP address and then you would come to this screen. You wouldn't have to go through the prompts of entering a meeting ID or no passcode. So I'll show you guys that. But while we're in a call, I want to kind of share how you can share content because that's important. So right now you see the participants coming from one panel. You're going to have the HDMI cord, and it's going into this panel. So it's connecting the two panels here. And then you're also going to have one loose HDMI cord or USB that's going to go into the laptop. So I don't know if you guys' systems came with laptops.
No,
No? Do your instructors have laptops?
some do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would want to share their content from their laptop. Let me log in. And so what I've done is I've just taken that cord that was hanging and plugged it right into my laptop. Now I can actually manipulate this whole screen, which is my laptop. But right now, and I'll show you, I'm in the call, but I'm not sharing any content. So right now, if I was sitting in Senatobia in my den, I wouldn't be seeing the content, I would be seeing the participants on the call. Okay, but if I had a really important lesson that I wanted to share with you guys here and with my students at home, I would want to share this content. So to do that, we're going to click the menu, and it's going to bring up this panel over here, and you see content. I'm going to toggle over to content, and I'm going to select camera 2. And this is camera 2, this is screen 2. And when I do that, it sends the content. So now, I have my content here, but this is what my far end users are seeing. I'm seeing my content, I'm also seeing my participants, and then if they were on a call, they're going to see the content, and then they're going to see this space up smaller. And you know, they have the opportunity too to change on their device, whether they want to see speaker view, gallery view, thumbnail. I don't know if you can see this.
I do, and I have one more question about this screen over here.
Sorry, I'm going to
Does it have a computer, a little computer in it? Some of ours do not, and if I were to bring up like any Microsoft platform, be it like Microsoft Office, whether it be Excel or PowerPoint, or don't I have to have a little computer module over there for that to work?
You don't have to if you have your laptop.
If you have your laptop, but you can't do it without the laptop because you don't really have a computer in that TV.
No, you can get one. It's called a slot-in PC.
Right.
Y'all didn't come with them, but it has an Android-based system. So if you were to disconnect these, and we can talk about this in a minute, but if you were to disconnect these, you could run this on the Android side on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
And you could pull up, probably not Microsoft,
But
but you could go to.
WPS was the word
Yeah.
application for that?
Okay,
I
yes.
got you.
So it's on there, or you could go to like Google, like you could use the browser, go to Google, pull it up from your Google Drive in Sheets or Docs or something like that. And that's through Wi-Fi. So right now you see this different stuff going on. On the side of your interactive panel, you have these grayed out little arrows, and you'll see over here they're moving, because anything I'm doing on this screen is going to the people at home or on the other side. So if I tap those gray arrows, it brings up a lot of different functions. The one you're probably going to use the most would be the pen, and it brings up different pen tools, a highlighter, a pen. If I tap that, it's going to give me like 4 different color options. So now anything I do is going to be seen on the call. So if I had a browser pulled up, then I wanted to highlight something. If I had anatomy pulled up, if I was working on electrical stuff, I know you guys do a lot of different cool things. Cosmetology, you saw that walking in. If I wanted to annotate over something, I could do that, and the users on the far end are seeing that. The thing that I think is neat about this is I'm seeing what's going on. So I'm not having to say, hey Jay, can you see that? Can y'all hear me okay? Can you see that? Can you see what I'm doing? Because I think a lot of times when we're doing these virtual calls, you spend a lot of content time making sure that what's happening is happening because you're not seeing it. But I'm seeing it there. I'm able to highlight, do whatever I need to do. If you have a flat palm, that will actually erase. Sorry, my computer went away. Sorry. I need to adjust the sleep on my computer. That will actually erase. Let me show again. You can flat palm. It has 20 points of touch. So if you had students who you wanted to come up and annotate, they could all at the same time. Now flat palm is going to actually erase it. But if you're like, okay, I want to get rid of all of that, you could click the X. There's a screenshot feature too. So if you wanted to screenshot what you had done and save it to the device, you could do that there.
Which one is the screenshot button?
Let's see. Is it this one?
Okay,
Yeah, so you can do that and you can save it.
excellent. And it just saves it to my documents or something?
It saves it to the Android side of the panel.
Okay.
But I'll show you all a whole different program that you guys have access to as well. So yeah, lots of different things over here, some tools. You have a dice, a timer. One thing that we had come up a lot this year, this is more probably in the K-12 arena, but you know, they said, hey, we told them we're gonna have a 5-minute break, and we had kids who weren't coming back after 5 minutes going, oh, well, my microwave said 12:36, and yours said, I'm sorry, yours said 12:20, but you know, mine didn't say that. So you can set the timer here, and they're seeing the same timer you're seeing, which you know helps as well. So you could start a timer like that, and now they're seeing the content. The same process for if you want to stop sharing the content. You're going to hit the menu button and toggle it back over to content. Now you're going to see it has the stop symbol in it. So you're just going to select that. It's going to stop sharing the content. Then it's going to default to the participants. And now the participants are no longer seeing the content. You're seeing it. And I think it's important to note, you're still seeing the content, but over here you see the participants aren't seeing it because it's not being shared. And if you ever have a question on whether or not it's being shared, just go to that menu button, toggle over to content, and you see right now it doesn't have that stop sign, and it doesn't have anything in it. You don't see the picture. So you know that it's not being shared. I'm going to go back, and now I'm at the call. A few other things. If I toggle over to more, I'm going to see PIP layout. That means picture in picture. This is going to be the equivalent to what you're familiar with when you're doing a Zoom call on your laptop and you have gallery view, speaker view, thumbnail. You don't have all of those same options, but you do have several different ones. If I go to more and I select PIP layout, it's going to give me options on how I want to see this. And this is totally just personal preference. In your handout, I'll call these like the fancy features, because this is like, if you feel really comfortable with the system and you want to change things up, you can go to this, but you don't have to. So you see right now, we have the far end is big on top, the participants are small at the bottom. You can have them to the left, to the right, you can have them take up the whole screen, and if you kind of hover over it, it'll show you a preview.
Okay.
I really like this one, which is thumbnail, which is kind of like what you would do on your laptop screen, what you would see where you see everybody in their own little block like the Brady Bunch. So I like that one. You're only going to have access to that PIP layout while you're in a call. And I was explaining this to Corey and her staff earlier. If you're not in a call, it's not going to give you that option because there isn't any participants to relay out. So a lot of times you have people that are like, I can't get to the PIP layout. And I'm like, well, you got to be in the call to then manipulate it. So you don't have to like set it up. It's going to default to something. But if you wanted to change it up, you could. Another thing that you can do is control the camera. So if I wanted to zoom in on something, wanted to see Dr. Jones, I can use these. So just kind of tab over. Yeah, there he is. It's got a really, really great camera on it. So we could zoom all the way in on that Nike check or on his face, and you see how clear that picture is. These are mobile part systems, so you probably aren't going to have a need to set a preset, but those are outlined in here as well. If you want to set a preset, a lot of times we do this when they're stationary. So if you had a focus wall in a room, or an anchor chart, or a vocabulary word that you wanted to zoom in on, and you knew you were going to reference that area of the classroom a lot of times, then you could hold down a button and it would set a preset of that space. And so if you were in the middle of a lesson and I clicked 1, it would go in on his Nike check, because it knew that that was a space that I was going to reference a lot. So if I wanted to do that, I would just hold down a preset. Let's see. Go to the camera and toggle over to presets. That's where I could actually control those and see which ones are set. And it kind of gives you the instructions, and again, they're here. But you would select a preset by pressing the number, zooming in, and then press and hold a number. And so if I had done that, and I'm not going to do it because I don't know what space you guys are going to be in, you can always override them, but if I wanted that Nike check to be there, I would press and hold 0, and then you would see a still shot of that Nike check. Okay? So then later on, we're going to come in, it's going to still show a Nike check right there on Dr. Jones' shirt. He's not going to physically be there, but the camera's going to go to that exact space. Where this gets tricky if they're moving around is if this is not in the exact space, if it's tilted a little bit, it's not, the camera's going to go to that direction. Gotcha. It's not going to go, it's not going to know.
Could you set that thing up as a preset and just this Everest logo?
I can, let's see. It's a little bit.
Yeah, a little crazy angle.
Let's see. Is there something else you would rather do?
Yeah, that's good enough. Yes.
So I could press and hold 1. And it says the current view has been saved as preset 1. So now if I go back And I toggle over to presets. We're gonna go to camera first, and then presets. It's gonna show you. And
Okay.
See now, one, you see a screenshot
Excellent,
of what that preset is.
excellent.
So I'm gonna go back. And a lot of people like that because, and it's still, the camera's still over there. So sometimes, and I'll do this, people want to set 0 as like the room view.
Right.
So that if they're going in something, they could do, click 0 and it's gonna go back to that traditional view. So I will do that. And let's see. What do y'all think about that? That's pretty good. See everybody at the table? So I'll press and hold 0. The current view has been saved. So
Excellent.
I was gonna lesson, I could click 0 and quickly go back to that. So when you go back, we see that those are the people in the call. If I want to hang up or end the call, again, there's several different ways I can do it. I can click the menu and I can toggle over to hang up, okay? Or I'm gonna just click the red hang up button and it's gonna end the call and it's gonna take us back to that home screen.
Excellent.
So, really simple, right? So it is simple when you get started and when you get going and you're playing with it, it's pretty easy. Again, if you didn't want to have a call and you just wanted to share content, then you have that option too. Some people don't have 2 screens to be able to say, hey, I want to just share content on this one and not be in a call. If you wanted to do that, you could just toggle over to the content button. And you could have something plugged in directly here, or you could have dual screens where your content is big on both screens. And then I'm not in a call, it's not using the camera, you're not seeing that camera view over here, you're just seeing the content. And I will say sometimes when you turn on the computer, or turn on the system, if you have your laptop already plugged in, it's gonna automatically be sending that content. And so you're gonna think, why isn't it working? And why don't I see my camera? And it's because it's defaulted to content mode. So what you would do is just do that menu, and if you select content, you're gonna see that it's sharing. You would stop sharing, and then it's gonna bring up that camera view.
So when it defaults to content mode like it just did, you're basically doing screen mirroring or screen duplication. Can you make that an extended desktop?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
You can make an extended desktop if you're not using the poly system.
Okay.
You know, like if you were just gonna do
Yeah.
HDMI and make one, and from here, you're going to go into your settings, into
Right.
your displays, this could be a second
Okay.
monitor.
And just from the one HDMI cable that's plugged in, right? Just,
I would imagine,
Okay.
I don't know why it wouldn't,
okay.
I don't know why that wouldn't work. Jay, can you see any reason it wouldn't? Just the same way you would connect any additional monitor.
Right.
Basically take anything poly out of it.
Yep.
This is just